I know you're going to connect with Sister Chirita very soon because you both are coming from the same angle. You'll see in a second. But Jamaica on Ice, literally drill that into your psyche. Jamaica on Ice. Go online, try it out, spread the word, spread it, make it go viral online, brothers and sisters. Support our own and be yourself. So, brothers and sisters, Jamaica on Ice, right there. Let's do this. Let's do this. Now, brothers and sisters, boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a night we've got lined up for you, man. What a night we got lined up for you. Now, something's going wrong, brothers and sisters. Something's going wrong. I'm going to play this. Now, many of us have seen various aspects of this, but it's going to put into context what tonight next guest is really all about. Okay, let's touch on this.
So show me the smart child. Okay, why is she the smart child?
Because she looks like me.
Okay. Show me the mean child. Okay, why is she the mean child?
Because she's way darker.
Okay. Show me the good child. Why is she the good child?
Because I think she looks like me.
Okay.
Woo!
Show me the bad child. Why is she the bad child?
Because she's a lot darker.
Show me the ugly child. Why is she the ugly child?
Because she's like, a lot darker.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and she has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me.
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
¿Por qué el muñeco blanco es bueno? Porque sus ojos son azules y todo su cuerpo es blanco. ¿Cuál muñeco es feo? ¿Por qué?
Porque está negro.
¿Por qué ese muñeco es malo?
Porque está café.
¿Y por qué que este café es malo?
Porque pega.
¿Cuál muñeco te gusta más?
Blanco. Porque sus ojos están bonitos y su raza también.
So we've all seen videos like that, and it's a shame that even till today. But you know what, brothers and sisters? There have been a few that have been standing up and absolutely leading the way, and it was phenomenal that in the news just a few days ago,
Show me the...
that we paid tribute to this beautiful queen. Beautiful queen. Yeah, and we're going to touch base, and we're going to see why we've got such a special guest tonight. Okay, this sister here.
She was very much a force of nature. She was someone who stood up for others.
She was a woman of colour, came from a working class background, from an area of Cardiff that wasn't renowned for producing high achievers.
Describing Betty Campbell, a champion of education and a fierce fighter for racial equality.
3, 2, 1, go!
As her statue was unveiled in the centre of Cardiff today, so too was her story. Born in 1934, Betty grew up in poverty in Tiger Bay. She was told as a child that a working-class black girl would never achieve academic success, but she proved her critics wrong. Instead, Betty went on to become Wales's first black head teacher and managed to get black history included in the curriculum. And for her daughter Elaine, today was a day to reflect upon her mother's success.
You have all these emotions going through, through you as well. But to see my mum in stone in front of you, it is an experience which obviously it only happens to so many people.
But the statue isn't just about remembering the past, but also about looking to the future too.
It's about sparking that I can attitude in that next generation, and it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter where you came from. All that matters is that you believe in yourself and you just keep fighting until you get to where you need to be.
Something inside so strong, so strong. I know that I can make it.
As current pupils at Betty Campbell's school sing to celebrate her life and achievements, her statue is a permanent reminder that aspiration and determination can help you achieve your goals. Catherine Nash, 5 News.
Now, brothers and sisters,
Achieve academic success.
let me just quickly
Instead, Betty went.
pause it there. Brothers and sisters, as you see, okay, just this year alone, we've made history. Wales, yeah, not too far from Bristol, but Wales has literally put up the very first statue to a black woman, a woman of education, a woman that literally fought the system to make sure and ensure that black children and white children and all children are getting their black history. And if you look to the left of this image is her granddaughter. And believe it or not, brothers and sisters, we have with us tonight on the Hidden Truth Show, our beautiful queen, Sister Rachel. I'm just coming back off here again. Our beautiful queen, Sister Rachel here, she's there. And this mother that you saw, grandmother that you saw, literally changed the scope and the landscape of Wales. She has given birth to a dynasty of children and grandchildren that are absolutely on the forefront and the senior leadership of education in the UK. It wasn't just the grandmother, she gave birth, and I think our sister here, Sister Rachel's with us. So brothers and sisters, we have got the granddaughter of the first black woman to make some noise in the chat room. No, we got to honor this sister that's with us today. It's her grandmother. And
too kind, Andrew.
No, sister, no.
My
sister,
goodness.
You know, sister, please, you know what I mean? I couldn't wait, you know, me and you've worked together, me and you've gone back in time together. We've still got lots of work to do together. And I'm glad that Sister Chirita's on there because she's a senior leadership teacher, senior leadership, part of the senior leadership team in education in mainstream and in independent schools. And I know that Chirita, you can come in this conversation anytime you want, sis. But Rachel, the floor is yours, sister. Please, 2 things I'm going to ask you initially first, my queen.
Yeah.
Let us know a little bit about your grandmother and her legacy. And let us know how and what you're doing in that, because I knew you independent from your grandmother because I saw the great works that you were doing already.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Honestly, I'm blown away by everybody's response and the love and the number of people you have on here at the moment, you know, and I think that comes down to the hard work that you put in getting us all together and the conscious moves to make this a positive space, not a doom and gloom space.
Absolute positive.
Because I think before I answer your 2 questions, I think the different video clips you showed of the dolls tests in various forms are a really good example of the damage that can be done when faced with the incorrect truth. And that's what people are being given. And lots of people speak about, oh, but kids are too young, what do they know? Or things don't really make a difference. Actually, lots seeps in through the subconscious, you know, so nobody has necessarily said to any of these children, the lighter you are means the better you are, or the darker you are, the worse person you are.
Absolutely.
But actually, these are the messages that are being reinforced in schools as well as in other parts of society. And a lot of this comes from the apprehensive nature of our country's discussions over race, our country's openness about the different power dynamics that have been at play. And so everybody sort of treads on eggshells, meanwhile reinforcing these incorrect messages. kids do see colour, and that's good and that's important.
Nothing
and
wrong.
I think it needs to be completely explicit.
Absolutely.
Conversations over why one person looks one way versus another person looks another way are absolutely fine to have. And I think that these conversations are conversations that even in white majority schools or white only schools and institutions and organizations, they need to have those conversations, because otherwise these false narratives are completely perpetuated. So what my grandmother did, or one of the things that she did, because she was the real, I guess, first class trailblazer.
Yes.
In that,
yes,
she wasn't born into money. So let me just set the context here a little bit. Her father was Jamaican. He was a merchant seaman. Her mother was of mixed heritage. Her mother was white, and her father was from Barbados. So my grandmother was born in 1934, and her father went out to sea to fight in the war. In the World War, not the white European war, it was a world war. Lots of our four people fought in there. And unfortunately he was killed. And so she was brought up by a single parent. But the area of Cardiff that she was brought up and born in is Tiger Bay. And lots of people know that reference because of Shirley Bassey. But essentially it was post-World War II, complete deprivation. It was known as the docks. So for hundreds of years, there have been people from lots of different backgrounds who settled there. And so you had lots of different cultures and backgrounds there in that small part of Cardiff, but it was incredibly deprived. That didn't deter her. When she was at school, at that point, it was like a grammar school system, wasn't it? Before secondary moderns and comprehensive came to play. So she passed her 11 plus and went out to school. She was one of the few Black children there. And when the teacher goes around, what do you want to be when you're older? Blah, blah, blah. She said a teacher. They said no chance, essentially, because she was Black. She then had my mum, age 18. So even though she wanted to go to teacher training college, it didn't happen initially. And she had another 2 kids after that, then went to teacher training college to live this dream. Because for her, education was something really important and she always wanted to be a teacher. And she managed to do that, which was incredible, in the 70s, being a female, being a Black female in the 70s. So you've got gender disparities or power imbalances there too. She still did it. And that was also because she had the local community there to support. So the community was huge, which again sort of has links to what you're doing here, Andrew, in terms of bringing the community together, because it relies on us to work as a collective to support stories of success. And it's not better than or worse than stories. Everybody has success stories in their own families, but it's because of the community there to support as a fallback. So she went and she did that, and then she had a 4th child and she became a head teacher, and she was awarded an MBE in the 70s. I think it was in 1976 as well. And then in the 80s really pushed forward the agenda of having Black history integrated into all curriculums in Wales, but she made sure that her curriculum had Black history woven through. We're not talking about an October agenda. But what she did do is she made sure that the push for that was recognised across Wales. And so she started off various things, and then she sort of worked on different education boards and tried to spread her knowledge outwards. So it wasn't just in her school, it was across Wales and then across the UK as well. And one of the moving things about the unveiling of her statue was that so many people left video messages. Prince Charles was one of them. Michael Sheen, who's a Welsh Hollywood actor, was another one. Labri Sufre, who wrote and sung the song Something Inside So Strong, left a video message as well. So it was incredible that you had all these different people from lots of different backgrounds, lots of different, I guess, stakeholders in society coming together to share their support of this unveiling. And Eve the sculptor, the way she sculpted the statue meant that you've got children around the bottom part. And my daughter is one of those children. And she's one of the children with her hair in bunches.
Your daughter?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's modelled on her. And she's looking over the shoulder of my grandmother, age
Wow.
7. So the child reading the book, age 7, is my
wow.
grandmother. And my
Wow.
daughter has her hair in bunches and she's reading over the story. And it's this idea of legacy and giving people a sense of belonging. And that is she did lots of things, but the main thing she did was give children and young people value, purpose, a positive sense of self. If you've got those 3 things going on, you can factor in all the literacy skills and the math skills and everything else in between, right? But what we've got to do is we've got to grow young people to be confident and positive about who they are, where they're heading, being able to make decisions that are positive ones because they've had positive experiences, and to open these boundaries and horizons. So she took, I'm thinking, God, this is incredible. In the 60s, in the 70s, she took kids abroad.
Wow.
And kids hadn't been abroad before, because we're not talking about people from privileged backgrounds.
Yes.
We are talking about the time before EasyJet, you know, and before Ryanair, and before going abroad on holiday was common as it is now. So she did loads, but yet she could resonate with everybody. So she was also the person in the community who wrote supporting statements for people who have to go in front of magistrates. She also signed passports.
Can I just pause you one second?
Sorry.
Can I just pause you 1 second, sis? No, because you're on the flow, but I don't know if Chirita's just seen it, but Winston Waterton, someone, one of the attendees there, said it was an honor to meet Betty Campbell, devoted community activist that helped me and my friends organize Black Heritage Day in the Slipper Baths Community Centre in Cardiff.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd be surprised the amount of people that we got on the platform that literally.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
And that's the thing. So she went above and beyond after when she retired, even though it's still referred to as her school, because she always said my school, my school. But she became a local councillor and she lived in the same place her whole life. So it wasn't as if she sort of achieved things and moved up and onwards and then out of the area.
Yeah.
She was committed. And she said, the only time I'm going to leave here is in a box. They're going to have to carry me out, you know?
Wow.
And that's because she had such a strong positive sense of community and she wanted to give back. So in terms of her legacy and me now,
come on.
I think, go on. Oh, sorry.
Come on.
So I'm a senior leader, I'm a deputy. I also do lots of work with other schools and organisations around anti-racism as well as general school improvement. And I am, what is the word? On the one hand, I'm shocked that we're in 2021, how little progress we've made. On the other, what I'm really pleased about is how the conversations about racism and experiences and interactions and how we can move forward, how people are more open now to having those. So conversations that are taking place are more open now than before. There's still a long way to go. And I've said this to everybody, whilst it's great that her statue is up, that's wonderful. That shouldn't be job done, full stop. That is right, now what next? That's a springboard into future, you know, recognition and future works that need to be carried out across communities to make sure that everybody is valued and everybody has a space. And I think that growing up as a younger person, I was completely oblivious to the impact of the non-verbal messages I saw. So my mother was a head teacher, my grandmother was a head teacher.
Listen to the legacy. Listen,
my God,
say that again. Say that again. There's people at the back that can't hear you.
Say just for you at the back who can't hear, or you're too tired because you've just come in from work. Say that
again. Talk about the legacy.
My grandmother was a head teacher. My mother was a head teacher. I have no desire to be a head teacher. That for me is that's just not what I want to do. My godmother was a head teacher. I'm a deputy head teacher, so I'm a senior leader too. But that was my norm. And I think what I did is I underestimated the impact that would have on me later on. So I didn't fear. So what often happens in education, particularly if you're Black, more widely if you're a person of colour, but particularly if you're a Black person of colour, is that you feel that you can get so far and then you can't get any further. And part of that is because of confidence and being able to navigate your way around the system. Whereas for me, I already had that confidence because that was my version of normality. So I had no issue with knocking on the head teacher's door and saying, can we do this? Can we do that? Can I do that? This is where I think we need to go. I completely didn't appreciate the fact that that's because my blueprint was that already. And so anything else that I had the confidence to go and knock doors down.
So sister, are you then saying to us that based on that you was brought up with no limitations in education? As far as you're concerned, your grandmother, your godmother, your mother.
And it's not, I tell you what it,
yeah,
I tell you what it was. It wasn't that people didn't think I couldn't do stuff. And it wasn't that low expectations weren't held, because invariably they were, right? What it meant though, is that people knew they couldn't really mess around with me as much as they could other Black children. And so I didn't have the same levels of disadvantage faced at all, not at all, right? And then it meant when I moved into the world of work, I'm just taking for a given that this is normal because this is my version of normality. And so I didn't have, whilst I was nervous about just turning up at the editor of the Voices office when the Voice was based in Brixton as a freelancer in uni, because I'd made a connection with somebody at a media conference who said, go and talk to Lester, he's my friend. I was nervous about doing that, but I wasn't nervous enough for it to stop me having that conversation. Absolutely. In order for me to then start that career. And then for me to go, oh, actually, I don't want to do that now, I want to work in TV. Let me just be brave enough to put these calls out. And when they came in, not be unconfident to take that opportunity. It's not a lack of nerves, it's about being able to break through. And if we track right back to what you showed at the beginning, essentially it starts at age 0.
Come on.
0 to 5.
Come
0
on.
to 5 is the most crucial time, because that's where those blueprint foundations are being laid. And if we're saying to children non-verbally that you're of value and you're not of value, or you're of some value but you're of lots of value, it means as they grow up, that's what's internalized, that's what's believed, and it's harder.
But sis, you know what? Just in that little video we played, the 2 doll experiment, you know, we're all very familiar with, or many of us are familiar with. What's scary is that those children were being honest. They weren't, to me, they weren't trying to be racist or whatever. No. It was just their natural, this is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
But what's scary is that the little white children will grow up to be future teachers. They will grow up to be the future lawyers, the future judges. Those who are making decisions based on that prejudice that they had as a child. But then the Black children, they're going to grow up on the
internalizing
it and giving birth to children who believe that they are bad because of who they are.
There you go. Absolutely. And 9 times out of 10, or 9.5 times out of 10, it's not because somebody has said whoever is darkest is the worst and whoever is the lightest is the best.
No words.
9.5 times out of 10, that is not it. So it means that 9.5 times out of 10, it's all the messaging through books or not through books, through what we see on TV or images we don't see on TV, or through conversations that are being had, magazines. All of that really forms the blueprint in mind of worth and value. And when we've got a teaching force that isn't reflective, and when we have education institutions that don't have a systematic approach to anti-racism properly, I'm not talking about a one-off inset session. I'm not talking about, oh, Andrew, can you come in and, you know, can you just do your thing? And then that's a box that's ticked. I'm not talking about that. So when I was on maternity leave last year, not last year, the year before, whenever, 2020, I had our second child in 2020.
Congratulations.
I was on maternity leave. On maternity leave, and I was talking to 2 really close friends, like, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do to make a difference? Because this is just ridiculous. If you're Black, you're more likely to be in every single negative statistic there is, whether we're talking about exclusions, mental health rates, healthcare treatment, whatever, it doesn't matter. Life expectancy. If you're Black, you're going to come out of that more adversely. What are we going to do to make a difference? Because it's now at that point, 2020. So what we did is we developed an anti-racism tool, but it's for organisations to use, not just schools, but others too. So I'm doing that work with the Church of England at the moment, and that's very interesting. I'm doing some work with some secondary schools and primary schools as well. I'm doing some stuff with Welsh Government. And the idea behind this programme is that it's at least an 18-month to 2-year programme. Because these one-off training sessions, I mean, they're wonderful on their own, and that's lovely, and it helps people to feel better, but actually it doesn't affect change. What we've got to do is get into the mindset of the workforce that is 89% white and predominantly female, and in the main, not always, in the main, from a middle-class background. Now, if we think about what Sister Jen Day said at the beginning, with what the work that she's doing, the legacies of that are being lived out today, right? So what we can't do is leave the education of our children in the hands of a system that doesn't acknowledge the inconsistencies in mindsets and the inaccuracies in mindsets, because otherwise everything is passed on and on and on. It's really, really interesting. Wales is like light years ahead. They've got anti-racist charters going. Every public sector organisation has signed up to stuff, blah, 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 blah. England, not so much. And I was invited to a conversation with the Shadow Education Secretary last week in half term. And it was myself, it was a deputy, I think the deputy leader of Hackney Council, I'd like to say, somebody from the Black curriculum, and then the two heads of the large unions, or of the large unions. It was NASWOT and Unison were there. And we were having this conversation. I said, look, at the end of the day, Labour has to show its commitment. At the moment, and I'm not going to get political, but at the moment, we've got a government that's not fit for purpose, right? It should be the easiest to knock it down.
It'd be the easiest time.
There is no opposition that's effective. So my thing is, what is Labour doing in terms of anti-racism and showing the commitment? Because there's lots of work and lots of discussion going on about the curriculum, and that is great and it needs to happen. But that's not the only part of the conversation. You can have whatever curriculum you want to have. If the person delivering that curriculum is not aware of why they're very quick to jump to some assumptions for some children and others for others. If they're not aware as to why it's really not great to use books 0 to 5 that liken brown skin tones to commodities like food, when that never happens with anybody with a white skin tone, there's no point. Like, we've got to delve beneath the surface. Enough of this nonsense now. For me, you either want to be anti-racist, and there's a really clear pathway forward for that, or you don't. But what we can't do is just talk about the curriculum, and think that that's job done. And I'll get Andrew to come in for an hour in September, and to do training for whole staff, and we've really done it then. It's like no, not good enough.
Let me pause you there 1 second, because sister, you're on the flow. You are
sorry.
No. I got people texting saying they're moving to Wales because of you now. So you're really selling good. But the reason why I pause you there, sister, because Sister Chirita, she's passionate about education herself, works in education across the board. Chirita, listening to our sister, is there anything that you wanted to state?
She has not said not one lie. I would have cut in a long time ago, but she has said absolute truth. There is nothing that she has said. And as much as, wherever I work, I always bring my uncle. He has to come in. I wish budget would allow me to do more than 1 or 2 sessions, but actually, I think you did 12 weeks. Did you not did 12 weeks with us in my last school?
I think Hammersmith.
Yeah, you did. So I mean, we try our best.
Definitely.
But yes, you've not said anything wrong there. But this is not, by the time I get the kids, obviously you're primary, I assume.
Yeah.
So by the time I get them in my school, they've already gone through that process, and a lot of the issues that have come, they're already deeply ingrained, and we are literally firefighting instead of making change, I think. But this was a conversation I was having last week. I was on a panel for Network Homes. If anybody knows of them, they're a housing association, and they were talking about Black children in schools and how disadvantaged that they are. And they asked a panel of Black teachers and educators to come and talk about how we can change them, when I was one of those speakers. But I think in general, this is something that is so ingrained from when people are born. This is something that, in terms of parents are, putting that into society, it's everywhere. And actually the numbers are showing that, when you've got less than 5% of head teachers are Black, and if you want to say how many of those are Black female head teachers, especially if you want to say Black female head teachers in secondary school, and it goes to even, I think it's something like 2% of all. And so if you've got people who have that mindset making decisions about Black children, whether they are wrong, whether they are right, whether they can be excluded, and literally making decisions that can affect their life chances, we are at a major disadvantage. And I made a facetious comment, and ever since Leon Marshall said this, he said something about, we can't just fix everything with "don't be a racist" training. And I really think it's a facetious comment, really, because how can you teach people not be a racist? He was mentioning that about police officers and saying, all police officers need to go on "don't be a racist" training because they're just naturally that way disposed. But there's a lot more that we need to do, and how we tackle this it's a major thing. And I think we have. I think it
is. Yeah, I also think it's quite simple for schools or for any organisations, really. I think it comes down to having a joined up approach, right? And getting one system that's mandatory for everybody to use. We've got local authority schools, we've got academies, we've got free schools. I mean, there's such a different level and layer of offer for schools, right? If there was a blanket measure, though, of, well, there needs to be a programme that runs over 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, then it really means that the government, or whoever would be in charge at the time, would be serious about this, because the only thing that hasn't happened is educating the educators in a sustained way, right? So we're all surprised, and oh my gosh, it's 2021, how come these are still the statistics? When the people responsible, who has a legal obligation, I might add, to make sure that the life chances of all people are secured, that there needs to be a sustained approach to that, and there isn't at the moment. And I think that
one of the things, sorry to cut you, we were talking about this last week and saying that actually maybe we need to start implementing something to do with the same way how we teach people how to deal with those who affiliate themselves with LGBTQ communities. Maybe we need to teach something about our own communities, because there's particular things that we do day to day that some people find confrontational, some people find very aggressive naturally, and that's just the way that we are. We are naturally passionate, we're naturally outspoken, we'll naturally look you in the eye. That doesn't mean that we are being that way, but sometimes people take it in that manner, and I just think that we need to, if they can do that for other particular groups of people, then I think, especially when Black children are being put at such risk, that we need to do that.
Well, and for me, what I said last week is, we need to start seeing this as a safeguarding issue. This is not just about a couple of Black professionals having a problem with the outcomes of children. When we've got pass rates for whether at GCSE standard, whether at Key Stage 2, even at Key Stage 1 now, they're not as strong. Early years, like leaving reception is just about on par or slightly higher. As the children get older, though, it seems to peter off and then dip completely. Like, that's just not okay. How are we going to make sure that we have young people getting into top jobs, getting into Russell Group universities, understanding the different roles that are out there in order to affect change in a 20, 30-year time scale without safeguarding futures at school? So what schools need to do is they need to stop being so narrow visioned, I guess, with their view on safeguarding being child protection in the main. It needs to move to vulnerable groups. And I think if you're from a Black background, you are in a vulnerable group. You're at risk of not fulfilling your potential, not because of anything inherent to you, but because of the system and those in the main who are in charge of leading that system and delivering lessons day in, day out. Because I tell you, if I said to somebody, or if I deliberately didn't talk to somebody day after day after day, non-verbally, they would think I didn't like them. Wow. The following day, the following day, the following day. What does that tell a young child? What does that tell a young person? How are they then internalizing that? How does that play out as they get older? You know, and at what point do our young people go from cute to aggressive? And I remember having these conversations years and years and years and years ago. I'm like, listen, I don't want to hear any teacher where I am talk to about any child being cute. I didn't really need to say any child. I really should have just said any Black child, because that's often where it lies. It's only Black. And when I say Black children, I don't really mean Black children completely in that whole group. I mean Black boys with lighter brown skin tones, if we're being honest, you know. And it's like, well, why is that? Why is that? You know, and it's just not okay. But these things are things that people don't have an awareness of, and it's only when people speak about it and really champion it. But what I also don't think there's an appreciation of is how wearing and taxing and emotionally draining this is if you are a Black member of staff, or if you are somebody working in this space, you know. And that it's not okay just to go, oh, can you just tell me what to do, Andrew? Or, oh, can you tell me what to do, Chirita? As like a little side in, and can you just do all the legwork for me, so I don't really have to reflect on my own practice, and I don't really have to grow and develop, because actually the problem's not with me. The problem's with you, and you know
this is a conversation.
Nonsense.
I'm gonna have to jump in at this point here.
No, go. We're talking.
This is
sorry.
so powerful. No, literally, because I can see the chat line is on fire. But as I said, Rachel, we want to bring you on as a keynote speaker. Okay, that is the key thing. We need to bring you on as a keynote speaker because, as I said, when we first met at a conference, we were both speakers, and literally, sister, if I didn't know you any better, you literally stood behind me on the train, copied all of my slides, all of my points, and the sister spoke before. I didn't have nothing to say after the sister finished, beloved. And from that time, we realized that there was a meeting of minds. There was definitely a meeting of minds, sister.
Definitely.
So I said, I did warn. I said, Chirita's gonna pipe up now, and you see that she piped up. It was just awesome. So what we're gonna do, sister, and I'm talking about in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
We're gonna organize a whole theme around the education, what needs to be done on the various levels, from management to teaching to parenting.
Yeah.
And to what's the message to the young children, okay? So we're going to talk about this next week. So I just wanted to introduce you to the platform. And like I said, brothers and sisters, please, before we move on, please, if you felt my queen here today, Sister Rachel, put blouse and skirt in that chat room, brethren. Blouse and skirt, because
I'm wearing a dress, so I can't really say blouse and skirt.
Wow.
But she was good.
Wow.
Amazing.
You know, and I'm trying to say, brothers, this is, as I say, this is one platform, you know, and you notice how we dealt with such a serious issue, but there was no moaning. We were dealing with the issues, identifying it, and with a spirit of love and looking for what are the solutions? What should we now be doing? Should we be at the seat of government and pushing our agenda? And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, every Tuesday, this is your platform. You know you're going to get inspired, but you're going to have a serious discussion on the issue. So, Sister Rachel, we thank you. We thank your wonderful historical grandmother, and she's let go fire now across the UK. Fire.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it'll be great to see everybody soon. And I'll be online, but I'm going to take the camera off.
No worries, sister. We know you're there. Don't worry, my
Thanks, Chirita. We'll catch up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I knew you to hit it off. Brothers and sisters, you know, as the two queens were speaking, it reminded me of this. Sister Chirita, can you read this out for me, my queen?
If I can see it. No, I'm not wearing my glasses. Hold on 1 second.
Oh gosh.
Ancestor Toni Morrison said, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language, and so you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have